This is the Outliers Edge podcast, where we champion the leaders who are shaping the next era of humanity by taking them to the edge of their comfort zone so that they can lead us to the edge of what's next. I'm your host, Niiamah Ashong. Let's do this.
Boom, we're in the room. How are you? This is Niiamah Ashong, founder of Outliers Edge, where we champion the leaders who are shaping the next era of humanity. You know, I say that we champion the leaders who are shaping the next era of humanity. And I realized that today I got to be in a conversation with someone who has championed me when I was just trying to find a way to do good in the world. Championed me when I was trying to figure out how to build a coaching business, and really championed me when I was just trying to figure out who I was in the world and how I could safely and bravely be myself and still be successful. So today I'm really honored to be in a conversation with Mike Harris. Mike, thank you for being a champion of me. Thank you for continuing to we continue to grow with one another. Thank you for continuing to be that one of those people in my world here. I'm glad and honored to be in conversation.
Niiamah, thank you for having me on the show, and thank you for standing for depth, possibility, and power in the way that you do. I know that every time I'm in a room with you, I have to bring my A game. I can't screw around, and I appreciate the reflection of who I am and how I am in the world. It means a lot for me to hear that from you, because you're a man I admire very much.
Well, strap in, Mike, because I still have a little more to say about who you are to me.
Oh Lord.
And here's my actual deep desire in this conversation. Please bring your A through F game. A through F game here. And the reason I say this here is that I feel that if I only get the best of you, Mike, I'm only getting a very, very, very small sliver of an amazing man. What I'm looking for is all of you. I will take nothing less than all of you. And if I feel like I'm getting less than that, I will ask for it, similar to how I'm doing it right now. You know, it is in, and we'll probably play with this in so many different ways, but it is in both your successes and your failures that I feel like I see myself. And I feel like I'm able to rise up and continue to walk forward, and at times jump and even leap ahead. It is in there are conversations that we've had maybe 4 or 5 years ago that to this day I meditate on. I don't go into a live experience, and I need to bring this into actually more of my experiences. And I say the need part is just because I just feel it's so valuable, not because of any shoulds or anything, but because I feel it's so valuable. You walk me through a process which you call the CVR, and you walked me through that years ago in terms of how do I to give me a chance to find the context, vision, and results of how I wanted to create myself as a leader for an experience. I read that the results of that CVR is my manifesto. I come in, I listen to "This Is Me" underneath it, and it takes me about 2 or 3 times to go through that song to finish out all of who I am creating myself to be on a regular basis here. What I get about you is that your capacity to be in the world is one that only continues to grow. It is enormous as it starts out with, and only continues to grow. And what it is, as I think about it, is it is a big enveloping polar bear hug. I don't know how else to describe it. It's it feels like the Arctic winds come in. It's not a grizzly bear. It's definitely a polar bear. And I don't know what that means, but I'm going to say it as my truth here. I really just I get with every fiber in my being that every time I'm with you, I want all of you. I want everything that you have to offer. And I know that even you at your worst is still one of the best things that can happen for me.
That is something to receive. Thank you. And that feels like such a rich place for us to begin this conversation about being, setting our best foot forward and setting our worst foot forward too. right? Doing those in the same walk.
You know, as you say that, what comes to mind is like oftentimes the things that feel like my worst foot forward, like later on, I'm like, oh, that was the best thing that could have happened. That's like one of the first things that come to mind for me on that.
Yeah, and it's so true, because how much of what we call our best foot forward is manufactured, rehearsed, and not really quite who we are. It has the feel of the AI version of who we are. It sounds like us, it looks like us, it has memorized some of our mannerisms, but it's not quite us.
Yeah. You asked a question here. So, you know, we're going to have a conversation. I don't know where this conversation is going to go, but every part of the conversation feels great. And one of the things that I found in the Niiamah Ashong world, the Outliers Edge world, is that we don't let questions go unanswered. And so you asked it, you're like, how often or how much of us like show up for that? And I like really had to check in. I was like, how much of me does, you know? Just a quick little check in on like how much of me like does come in that area. Nowadays, I'm able to catch it in real time, you know? Or let me say this, I'm more equipped to catch it in real time. Like, so that just happened right there. Let's say, like, I don't always catch it, but I think what comes for me is like, I feel the pressure. I like, oh, okay, this is interesting. This has shown up now. I feel the responsibility as a leader who is dedicated not to making the world slightly better as it is, you know, slightly more polished version of this world. I'm like, I'm here. I'm here to champion the leaders who are shaping the next era of humanity, knowing that like I am also championing myself, right? So I'm like, and so as someone who is here to like bring in and usher in the next era of humanity, I'm like, I have to check in and see what I am doing or saying or being is leading to more of the same, maybe just a polished version of it. And what of it is actually going to lead to something different. What it might end up being, I don't know, because I haven't seen it yet. I've seen glimpses of it. I've been in rooms. I've felt the experience of it, but I have no clue what would happen if the whole world showed up powerfully or like fully expressed or what. I have no idea what it'll be, because like the tremendosity of just that vision is, yeah, I love that word, by the way. I just made it up. I made it up a few weeks ago, and I'm like, I'm using it. This is mine. The tremendosity of that vision is infinite in its possibility. So that's where that took me to right now. I saw you light up in a couple of different ways. So like take me to whatever is playing up inside of you right now.
Yeah, you know, as I was riffing off of what you were saying, and your response to the question, what came up for me is I was noticing where I do that. And someone pointed this out to me a couple of years ago. I mean, damn, was she spot on. She said, you know how I know that you're full of it, Mike, is when you sound like you're trying to sound deep. And what's funny is I noticed, like, I could read the room when I'm trying to sound deep. Like, I see people like start to nod off a little bit, a little eye rolling, a little bit of, you know, people not paying attention anymore. And when I just say what's on my mind in a straightforward way, and sometimes I'm stumbling through it and making a hot mess word salad, sometimes that's the thing that's most impactful for someone else. And then they say it's impactful. I'm like, what was so good about that? That was just some idiocy that came out of my mouth. And this is the most profound thing you heard from me? Come on. But then, you know, it brings me to this whole idea of like new and nuance. And you know, I've had a lot of coaching conversations over the years, and there are a lot of people I've worked with who have said, you know, like, we'll be in conversation and I'll make a statement. I'll say, yeah, but I already knew that. And I hear a lot of things that I already knew. You know, I spent a lot of time working with Steve Chandler, and Steve Chandler never says anything new, but there's always a wrinkle to it when you listen that comes through. It's, you know, it's like, oh, I knew, like I heard that before, but I didn't see that.
You know,
I didn't see it that way.
When you say that, what comes from me, because I've had that experience. I've listened to one of our mentors, his book, probably over 30 times, and I've done many programs with them, and I'm like, still go back to like the book that started it all. And I do think that there's a little bit of a difference. I think the difference is, like, literally, it's a book that was audio recorded years ago, so like there's nothing new in that. Like, he's literally saying the same things. Like, it just is. But the difference is whether or not I've implemented it, or attempted to implement, or have done something different in my life. And I find like it's like, if I'm coming at it as the same person, if I listen to the book twice in a row, one time right after the other, I probably won't pick up on anything different, because the person that I am is like filtering for certain things. However, if I go out and I then start to implement it, and I'm like, wait, either, oh, this is what they really meant, or I try to do it and it didn't come to life. Next time I hear it, I'm a different person hearing the same thing, as opposed to being, if I was going to say this succinctly, a lot of people show up as the same person that they've been, and not just because they're not choosing to transform, they're just choosing maybe to learn or to perform, you know. But they're showing up as the same person that they've been, where they heard the information the first time, where they heard that thing the first time, that it landed in a lot of the same ways that it did the time beforehand. That's what's showing up for me right now as you say that.
Yeah. The, like, you know, coming, like, you know, taking something in as a concept, as opposed to being able to take it in from the perspective experience. How profound is that? Conceptually, there are a lot of things that feel profound, but experientially, everything's profound. Okay.
So now let's talk about that, right? Because you said something like, experientially, everything is profound. Like we end up quoting things inside of as part of what we do here. I'm like, that to me is something I want on my wall. Experientially, everything is profound, because it's like, you just articulated something I believe, like, in my deep core, right? It's like, how is it that the thing that you said the idiocy, is that, yeah, I think that's what you said. Something about that, like, yeah, it's like the most idiotic thing I said. That's what's taking you home. That's what your breakthrough's on. That's what you're walking away with. Right? When you said that, like, oh man, it made me smile. It made me smile because I'm like, I feel like right now I'm like opening the kimono, like open up the doors here on something. I currently have, well, a few years ago, I made about 200 short videos that were about less than a minute long. If you know me, Mike, I talk. So like, I'm willing to have 2 hours worth of me coaching people online. And so to get to something that was under a minute, I was like, I don't, like, have you heard me? Everything I say is so important. How can I say it in just a minute? And I ended up taking on, like, it wasn't a challenge. It was actually just like a really fun thing. I was thinking about Horatio from like CSI Miami and all these different CBS type like TV shows, where at the very end of it, like, someone would have like a one-liner, be like a body in the freezer, and be like, well, I guess she's out cold, you know, and like, one of those things that is just like, to me, like, it works, right? But it's like, that was lame, that was corny, and like full of idiocy, you know. And so that was actually the thing that I had in when I first made those videos. I was talking to a friend, and I was like, you know what? Like, people have all these quotes out here. Like, you can just say whatever it is. Like, let me tell you, it would be really hilarious if I just recorded myself having Horatio moments over and over again. And so that's what got me to hit record. And literally, as I was doing it, like, at first it was just like, I wanted to challenge myself to see, like, how ridiculous can I be with this? And then as I started doing it, how ridiculous can I be? And how can I do like just only one-liners? Like, how can I be like one-liner things can I put out into the world? And as I started doing it, I was like, oh, wait, no, like, it started out as a thing to be ridiculous. And then it's transformed into like, no, there's some real gems in what I'm saying. Like there are truths in here, you know. I might be saying it from like like that's a kind of like a tiki way in a certain way. Like that might have been where it came from, but like the power isn't any less. To the point where I remember this like distinctly. There's times that I would hit record without knowing what I was going to say next, and I just started laughing one time, and I just started laughing, and at the end of it, I just said, "Sometimes you just need to laugh." Right? So like, so when you talk about this here, I'm sharing something here. And part of the reason I'm sharing this is because like I want to out like that part. I'm like, I don't want to hide that like that the fact that I have these videos going out started out as like a little tongue-in-cheek kind of thing, you know. It's the only way for me to get things moving. But I love that element of like, hey, you never know what it is that you say that might have the most impact. And B, like everything you say has the potential to be everything you say, do, or whatever has the potential to be impactful. I would love to just riff on that and play a little bit with you on just that a bit, because there's so much juice in that.
Oh yeah. Yeah, and you know, it's funny that think about how impactful it is just to show up. You know, just for the two of us in this moment to come together and be a we for an hour. We don't have an agenda. We don't have a goal. We're showing up to have a conversation and let whatever happens happen. And already there's been an impact on you. There's been an impact on me. And we're not that far into the conversation. And everything we do has that impact too. When you started to riff a little bit, I was thinking about the experience of woodworking. So, you know, I came back to woodworking about a year ago. I'd been doing it for years, and I picked it up really out of necessity. I picked it up out of necessity. I had a home. It was a money pit, and I kept having contractors show up and, you know, give me the runaround. And I decided to take it into my own hands and learn how to fix things. And then the next thing I knew, I saw that there was an art in it. I saw there was this art in woodworking, and I started making these, you know, beautiful pieces that to give away as gifts or for my own house. And now that I've come back, and this is a business now, you know, my wife said, you should just come back and do this and start selling your pieces. And I'd never even thought about it before. I didn't have a shop anymore. So I just went ahead and put one together, and I realized that I was really butting up against my own incompetence. Like I realized what I don't know fast. If you want to learn where you are not competent, take something that you kind of know how to do and go into business. You'll you'll find that edge of incompetence really, really quickly. And it became apparent to me very, very rapidly that part of what I was doing was practicing self-forgiveness. Niiamah, I mess up almost every single piece at some point. I've been doing this for 15 years. And after 15 years, at some point, I still make a little mistake, at least a little mistake on every piece. Sometimes I make big mistakes and I have to start over. And I also know that if I don't take the time to acknowledge that I'm human and offer myself grace and forgiveness, that I'm going to sink like the Titanic. Except nobody's going to make a movie about it. I'm just going to sink if I don't practice that self-forgiveness. And man, is that are those little pockets of that, of finding, going from the negative to the neutral, from the, from the contemptuous to the loving. Man, do those transform my day? Because sometimes I show up to start making something, I don't realize what I'm carrying with me.
When you say you don't realize what you're carrying with you, tell me, what do you mean by that?
Meaning, I might have been a little frustrated at home in the morning. Maybe, I was beating myself up. I might have, left my shoes out in the middle of the floor, and then I came downstairs early in the morning and tripped over them. And then I was a little mad about that, and then just allowed that to snowball through the morning. Or maybe I just woke up feeling some sort of way. I had some thoughts about someone I had an interaction with the day before, or maybe I was anticipating something with someone later that day, and I was carrying that with me.
Yeah, I noticed a shift inside of me. There was like a decompression is what I would kind of describe it as when you said the word self-forgiveness. I want to go down that path with you right now, the path of self-forgiveness. And if it ends up going somewhere else, we'll go down wherever that leads us to. But it felt different than self-love. I felt different than even like self-acceptance. You mentioned like self-forgiveness. And I realized in this moment, while it's something that I can navigate a conversation around, I'm wondering, I'm just really checking in with myself here around like how much do I really know self-forgiveness? I'm wondering if you like, yeah, I would love to just like be in like the exploration of that from like a very real perspective, like of like the self-forgiveness perspective. And feel free to ask me a question on it too, because there's something in here that felt really good when you said that. Something in here that just said like, wait a minute, this right here, this is the conversation that like, this is where I want the conversation to go. This is the conversation that I haven't had in a while that I feel is important to have. And this shows up sometimes in these conversations where I'm like, I see where it is. I know what it is. Thank you. I recognize, so I'm now pushed up against my edge as the leader of Outliers Edge and the founder of it. And the vision that I have in my head of I need to make sure that I'm maintaining my leadership and not get washed into things, right? However, this is the thing that's coming. If I'm being really real about things, part of the reason why I'm able to lead and be able to take unconventional paths is because I'm like, I ask. Because I know, like I'm not just playing in the world with the things that I know. Like, I'm like, oh, actually, we just stepped into your expertise. We just stepped into a place where you have like more understanding than me. I'm really curious. And rather than making a hypothetical, I'm talking about like, here's the 17 dimensions of like self-forgiveness. I love to use myself as like as a test dummy. And I realized I would do that with you if we were just like having a conversation, but I was resisting that in this moment. So I want to like leave the resistance here. We don't need you to go into like full on coaching or anything like that. But I do want to just like, I know that there's something to explore and excavate and to bathe in with self-forgiveness. And I'm not necessarily sure what that path is right now, but it doesn't mean I want to let that path go. Are you down to be like, as I'm spelunking and bouncing off some of the edges and everything related to this conversation of self-forgiveness, are you down to just go down with me on this?
Yeah. And I want to acknowledge when you said you don't have to share the 17 steps to self-forgiveness. I felt this internal sigh of relief, because in that moment, I knew that I wouldn't have to make them up.
Oh, the true stories that are in here. There are true stories that I actually a lot of my work now is I'm in the process of developing what my work is, right? Like I'm like, this is the practice. It's when you talk about like woodworking, I'm like, you're just in the practice of it, and eventually new skills come, new things you want to take on. You're like, oh, I have this vision, I want to be able to do this now, and I'll learn for what that is, I find that with me right now, where I'm like, I do believe the things I say are right and are gold. They're also wrong and are silver or bronze, like it's like we'll go by. I'm like, I said something. Figure out what I said in that conversation, and let's take some time, slow down, and like turn it into, later on we can turn it into something else. For now, let's just be in the reality of what our experiences are, and then we can pull out whatever we need to pull out from there. Does that sound good to you?
That sounds beautiful to me.
Cool. Let's go spelunking in self-forgiveness for a little bit. And then when we're done, we're complete on it, we'll do something else. But let's give some space and time to do that. Mike, it's so interesting to me. I could just feel like all the resistance and the internal chatter of like what I want to do is hand you the reins for the next few minutes. Just be like, where do you think we can take the conversation, either through your experience or through anything you're curious about me, since I'm so curious about this. The internal chatter is like, no, as the host, you cannot like put the work on someone else. You cannot. and like on the other part of like, as a person who's a transformational leader, is like, dude, be the transformation and just like get your ego out of the way. So I'm like, let me give it to you for a few minutes here, and we'll keep riffing as we riff. But like, I think to get us started, let me toss the ball over to you. Share, take us to some place related to self-forgiveness, and then we'll just see where it goes from there.
Cool. Yeah, I'd like to, like, I'll run with this for a minute or two, and then we'll check back in with you and see what rises up, because I feel this bubbling curiosity from you that wants a little more clarity of direction for.
I know what it is, Mike. I have a deep desire in this moment to know what it is that I want to forgive myself for, but I don't like, and I wasn't asking for it, and I didn't know how to do that in a way that like kept the power of our conversation in place. I also like didn't like mess with the dynamic of the conversation in our relationship, but like that's like I'm like yeah, it's in that spirit. It's like, I don't think there's anything that I want to be coached on, but at the same time, I want to know what's the real path to self-forgiveness? What is it actually? What's the experience of that? And so that's, and I think I just trust you. I trust you that we can actually be in the co-creation of whatever this is. But as this goes on, I'm trying to learn. I'm trying to get to actually what is the core of why this desire came in, as opposed to pulling something else that we could have stayed on in another topic. I think that the desire is, I'm like, oh, I never even thought about self-forgiveness. And for some reason, my body just went, ooh, it's melted when you said it. I don't know what's in there for me, and I'm very curious about what it could be. Given that level of honesty around this here, are you still down to play the game?
Oh, hell yeah.
Okay.
Hell yeah. So I'll start with my own experience, and the source of my seeing the importance of self-forgiveness was how hard I have always been on myself. So I learned at a young age to be hard on myself. That being right was being successful was being good, and being good was being loved. Straight line, right? Right, successful, good, loved. And the opposite was true too. If I was wrong, I was unsuccessful, and I was bad, and I sure was not loved. So I had this visceral need to be right, to be perfect, to be spot on, to be everything to everyone all the time. And I wish that I could tell you that I released that need more than I have. And I wish that I could tell you that I released more of it sooner than I did. But the truth is, it's only the last maybe 4 or 5 years that I've really been like digging into it and noticing where I need to be more forgiving of myself when I find myself having a judgment about something making me good or bad. It's a very visceral thing. It happens in the moment. And a lot of the time I'm just making it up anyway. The stakes are no different before and after self-forgiveness.
That one there, I find myself curious. The stakes are no difference before and after self-forgiveness. Tell me a little bit more about that.
So when I'm being really hard on myself, there's a lot of pressure there. Stakes feel really high. This is life and death stuff, right? This is for me, at a deep level, is about I am loved or I am not loved. And the antidote to not love is forgiveness. Right? That it's okay to not be perfect. It's okay that someone judges me as being bad. And I'll live after that. It doesn't feel like that when I'm showing up with this judgment and this perfectionism and this lack of self-forgiveness.
Can I ask a quick question? Because there is a nuance here that I'm seeking right now that I'm not clear on.
Yeah, please.
Okay. When I hear what you just heard, I heard that as like self-acceptance. Like, okay, like it's not good or bad. You know, I heard a little bit more from that lens than like the act of self-forgiveness. So like how does forgiveness come into into this concept? Like when I think about forgiveness, like I'm like, I forgive myself for not being perfect versus like, oh, I'm allowed to not be perfect. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And yeah, for me, forgiveness feels like the lever, right? It is that I did this thing, right? We'll boil it down to something really simple. We'll say that I'm working in my shop and I feel a lot of pressure to make a piece perfect. I'm making it for someone I know and I love and I care about, and I want them to be moved by what they receive. And I'm halfway through the project, and then I cut an extra 2 inches off of a piece that I didn't mean to. I mismeasure, or I just space and don't pay attention to what I'm doing. And next thing I know, I have to start over. My instinct is to be royally pissed at myself. And I'm like, you messed this up. You're a lousy woodworker. Why do you do this? Why can't you pay attention? And when I catch myself in that loop, now it's, dude, you made a mistake. It's okay. You're all good. Let's clean it up. And then we clean it up. And the cleanup is part of the forgiveness.
Okay, tell me more about that. And make that real as much as you can.
Yeah, because the cleanup is part of, it's really meeting yourself in the place of forgiveness. Imagine like, you're 5 years old and you're sitting at the dinner table and you knock over your drink. When you're looking, for me, I would have been looking for forgiveness from my parents. And part of that would be like, if we clean that up together, how good does that feel? How nourishing is that? That's like, hey, like, not only do I forgive you, but I got your back. In this, I have to play both roles. I'm the only one there. So here,
I am playing both roles, cleaning this up both as the forgiver and the forgivee. I think those are words.
They are for this conversation.
All right. And so I'm playing both those roles as I clean things up, as I correct the mistake. And as I get everything into the state that it was intended to be, but also just as I'm acknowledging that, yeah, this didn't turn out the way I wanted it to. So let's get it to where I want it to be.
I really appreciate that specific example, because I'm a father. My kid's turning 2 at the time of this conversation. We have a lot of like milk spills, like intentional milk spills. Now we're like in a
Right to the floor.
Yeah, just like let's just do that again. That's all good. And when you say it, so I got to play the parent role here around as well, where it's like, hey, how do we navigate this so that like we're not just spilling, but he doesn't have to take it to heart that like he is bad or anything like that. It's like we're gonna do this here. So when you say that, I can't recollect my 5-year-old self, but I do see like how I am with my son now, and what I would wish for him to have from the experience, from a wholehearted experience, from a complete experience. Like, yes, let's not like knock it over, and like let know that we are in this together. Like we're gonna spill some milk, and so like it just, I have to thank you. For some reason you chose an example that I can like, that really hits home for me right now, and also just kind of illuminates more of like what it is that I'm looking to accomplish, whether I use the term self-forgiveness or not. It's that feeling of completeness and wholeness there. So that's a thank you, one. And then 2, I love that image that comes up of like having to play both roles. And when you say that, I see an extra level of like the importance of self-forgiveness, especially as we continue down our unconventional paths, as we are out there doing things that like, either for us it's the first time, or for maybe in like the grand scheme of things, it's never been done before. And it's one thing to kind of like have like a parental figure come in and say, it's okay, like I'm with you and you're forgiven. And it's another thing to be at that stage in life where that needs to come from within. That needs, like, you need to play that role for yourself. And what comes to my mind is like, before this conversation, I think I would have held it in like a negative way, like I would have chastised myself for also playing that role and not having someone else in my world or something. Like why, what am I like? Why did I put myself in this position where I'm the only one X, Y, and Z? There's another new level of levity, a way of being with it, breathing in that moment to allow for more than what I had imagined beforehand. Thank you for that, Mike.
Amen. Happy that came up for you.
Yeah. It's super interesting. So even as you're talking and you're like talking about it, like your process and what it's like, I'm sitting here and I'm like, I believe in like the experiential leadership, right? And being in the practice of it. So it's like, it's really hard for me sometimes in these conversations, because I'm like, again, do I sit as post? Do I like kind of shine a light on someone else? Like, I have my experience. I'm real in the conversation with my experience, and I ask myself, am I being selfish here? Like all these things here. And so I want to let you know that as you were talking, I tried it out. I'm still working on it, but I'm like, so what would it be like here? Like for me to like ask myself for forgiveness, or grant myself forgiveness for how I am showing up and how I have been showing up, and what it like. And when you brought up cleanup, I'm like, oh, what would that be like? What does it mean to like really clean up in this space? Like, and to not have to clean up, and it's like not have to clean up in the standpoint of like, oh, Mike, I have to clean up on behalf of you. But actually, if I'm hearing you right, it's like actually to clean up on behalf of me and do that kind of internal yin yang play, both forgivey and forgiver, like internally, to bring that into integrity. Let me check in with you on that.
Yeah, that feels faithful and accurate to me.
This is a dance. This is a dance that we do with ourselves. Because we played multiple roles all the time, right? Judger and judgy. Probably judge and judgy, but judger and judgy. We all acceptor and acceptee, all the selves. Everything that starts with self dash, we play two roles, right? One is, levying judgment, acceptance, forgiveness, anything else, any other processes that we go through as a self, and the other that's receiving it.
I think it's a really, go ahead, Mike.
I was just going to say, we're always doing that dance between the two. We're not so conscious that we're doing it all the time. We're not fully aware of it, but when we can be, and when we can create that experience as we really want to experience it, then now we are, that's the first step in creating your present moment, creating your future. That's the foundation of that.
Yeah, that feels good. That feels really, really, really good to me. Okay. I'm grateful for you because like there's elements in here that just feel unexpectedly important. And one of the things that I appreciate about you in this conversation, Mike, as we start to wrap up here today, I appreciate that we were able to it almost feels like we were like a boat on the ocean, and we were like this entire ocean is our domain. We can go wherever we want. And then something happened. We said, "Hey, you want to go to submarine mode?" And we're like, "Yeah, let's just do that." And it just whoop, we just said let's go into that. I could actually feel my heart space was really open. I could kind of think about a zipper. I heard it in my barbershop world. Like you were singing a song and it's super emotional. It's what you don't want to do is be 100% open with the zipper, because then you're going to be blubbering and no one's going to be able to hear the song, So I could feel myself trying to calibrate. I was like, oh, the zipper got open a little bit more than I thought it would be. I'm here. I'm in the open zipper mode, I don't know if this is going to translate as well as it does in my head to everyone recorded out of an open zipper mode. I don't know if that is the best way to have phrased it. But I appreciate you being someone who's willing to dance. I didn't want to miss the opportunity, not just for myself, but there's something here in the art that is the conversations that I have. This is my artistry. There's something here around how can you be what it is that we talk about? How can every conversation live in multiple dimensions, not just in terms of if we're talking about self-forgiveness, how can we forgive ourselves even more through that conversation? And it's an interesting game that I'm playing. And I really, really, really wanted to say I'm so glad that you joined me in the arena for that. That you didn't step away. And you decided to play the game as well, because I feel in alignment with my heart. I feel like my back is sturdier, and I feel good about choosing to be here and navigating and flubbing all that path to figure out what is it that I actually want out of this conversation, what just showed up here. Why are we diving when we could be, so on and so forth. So I'm really grateful for you. Let's do this here. I have a feeling we're going to have more conversations because it's working. But for this conversation, let's wrap up here. And I like to wrap up these conversations with one thing. A lot of times people will end the conversation and say, okay, if you had to go back and talk to your past self, what message would you say? I'm not interested in that. I'm really curious, Mike. If you had to leave a message right now for your future self, what is the message that you would want to leave for your future self, so that when they come back to this, they're reminded of exactly what they need to hear, or no when the time comes?
Oh. I would leave a message for my future self that says, never forget how free you are. That for me is the one thing I noticed, that when I'm all jammed up, when I have a day where I'm in a funk, I've forgotten how free I am to just create my own experience, which starts with what we just talked about. And it also begins with simply acknowledging that I have the freedom to create that I'm not bound by a set of circumstances I'm not happy with. And I can choose to live my life how I want to live my life. That means being how I want to be. And that gives rise to doing what I want to do in a way that I like doing it.
I'm grateful for you. I'm very, very grateful for you, good sir. Let's do this. Like, there's some people in this conversation that will want to continue the conversation with you, right? What is the best way for someone to reach out and continue the conversation with Mike?
So I would say the most reliable way for someone to reach me is through my website, mikefharris.com. And if you're an email person, mike@mikefharris.com. You can find me on the socials. Always some variation of Mike F. Harris. And I respond on there, but I'm not super active on social media.
Yeah, let's be real. Like, if someone wanted to like be in space with you, right? Like,
Yeah.
like
I would say if
what's the way
someone wants
that
to
they can do that?
be someone wants to be in space with me, definitely email mike@mikefharris.com.
Yeah, perfect. So let's do that. I'm actually really, I'm like, I have to see if I want to change that question, because how do people continue the conversation? And people answer the question exactly that. I'm like, no, actually, what I really mean, I am having an experience of you, Mike. And what I really want to put out is like, how do people like who are having an experience of you deepen their experience of you? I think that's the question I really am putting out into the world. Yeah. Awesome. Well, Mike,
Appreciate you, man.
I appreciate you as well. Thank you so much. I'm glad we had this conversation.
Same, dude. This has been super nourishing.
Yeah.
We're just getting started. Take 10 seconds to think about your greatest insight from today's conversation. And if you're ready to go and bring this to a deeper, more applicable level for you, come and join us in an upcoming masterclass. Go to outliersedge.com/masterclass to be coached live and to bring your aspirations, your goals, and your challenges and have them handled in real time. This is high flame, high impact, high transformation. Go to outliersedge.com/masterclass and come experience your next level of leadership.